Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Racing Insiders podcast. I am Kate Dillon from CrateInsider.com and from the Cars Racing Show. Over on the right-hand side of your screen is Jimmy Schultz. You can raise your hand there, Jimmy. And he is from Dirt Rap, 25 years, I think, of Dirt Rap, and also my partner in the Cars Racing Show. And in the center square tonight, or center rectangle, I guess that's kind of a Gen X joke there, but in the center spot is Brian Littleton from Racelogic. And of course, Brian has been putting together these chassis schools, chassis setup schools for 29 years. We're going into 30 years next year. And, we've got some really important things to discuss this evening. And this is going to be all about putting together a safety summit for the dirt racing, for dirt circle track racing. But Brian, why don't you go ahead and kick us off and tell us about the experience you had a couple of weeks ago, and just kind of give us a little bit of a backstory here, if you would.
Well, and Kate's been involved in it. We've done a couple classes with Dallin and Damon Murdy out of Iowa, and most people in the dirt racing in the Midwest know who Dallin is. He's won Super Nationals back to back. He's won Bristol like twice. Kid's won everything there is in a stock car. And here's the deal: he's a better kid than he is a race car driver. And I don't know that he's he was in the top 20 of 20 when in Flo. Flo had a deal the other day out that said, kids under 20 in the top 20, and he was ranked in there. But anyway, saying all that, we've done these classes with him, got to know him, his family. I'll make it short and sweet. But they came down to race the track about an hour from my house, and I don't get to see him race a lot. So I went and watched. He started about 16th that night, and about 8 laps in, he's running second, and was running the high side. Track was kind of heavy. Well, he caught a rut with a right front and propelled him in the air and chassis first into a pole in the fence. Then the car fell down. I think it hit the wall on the way down. And then when it hit the ground, another car slid into the cage. So it's a horrific wreck. Well, I run up to the fence. His dad was there naturally and ran up to the fence, and I had to watch him cut him out. So, I was worried that, whether he was alive or not.
I'm going to stop you for just a second. We had a really bad connection there. So I just want to make it clear. So the Dallin was running the high side. He was running he was in the lead, and then he hit a rut, went bouncing up in the air, came down on his hood on the top of a concrete wall, bounced onto the racetrack, gets hit by another car, and then next thing you know, his dad has to cut him out with a Sawzall.
True.
Is that right, Brian?
Yeah, that's exactly. And let me know, I'm not in the best of areas here, and I apologize, but I had to make a 4-hour trip from the house tonight. But anyway, yeah. So I witnessed all that, and honestly, I wasn't sure, what the result was going to be. But got him out, ambulance, took him to the hospital, and it didn't really hit me that night. I mean, I knew it was a bad wreck, I knew it was horrible, but the kid actually walked away, went to the hospital, and then I took him back to their toter, and he went home. Well, about Tuesday or Wednesday night, I woke up middle of the night, about 3 a.m. I don't know why. And man, it just really hit me. I'm like, oh my God, I just about seen a kid lose his life, And so I decided that 2 things are going to happen. Either I was going to have to get out of racing, or I was going to do something about it. Well, I knew I had too many people's like, no, you can't do this. So I brought it on myself to get together with chassis builders, track officials, anybody in safety. And his car done its job. The kid walked away. Could something have been better? I'm sure. I'm not the expert, but he did walk away. He had a good seat. He had a Hans or a good Zamp helmet. He had everything. But he did walk away. So naturally, but we can do better. We can do better. Nobody's ever stood up and said, let's figure something out. Let's get together. Lucas Oil has done that. A lot of other series has got together and come up with some things, but your Saturday night tracks haven't. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to be the leader on this, and I can actually put everybody together. Yeah, there's a picture of the car right there. The kid, you know what? Kate, he's actually practicing tonight in his other car. I just talked to him earlier. So
Of course he is.
yeah,
Of course
of
he
course,
is.
he's racing again. So, you know, without getting too much longer into it, I just told myself that something needed to be done. Somebody needed to stand up and somebody needs to get these people in one room and let's figure out what happened. Let's figure out, was there something could have been done better in this wreck or the next wreck or whoever, not only cage safety, but fire. I mean, he had a good suit on. He had a velocity suit. I mean, he had all the right equipment, but I always say you don't know what you don't know. And that rings true here. I mean, sometimes people don't know how to properly mount your belts or if they're welding something right. So anyway, I just said, I'm going to do everything in my power. And that's when I got to thinking, Kate's got her trade show and we got open rooms there. And I called you out of the blue. I said, Kate, I need a favor. And I knew what the answer is going to be. I said, Kate, we got to do this. It means something to me. So we got our heads together. And here we are. And I've reached out to everybody that I can find, and I ain't done yet. We're going to keep on, and we're going to put everybody in the room, and we're going to talk about everything. It's not a sales session. It's not a debate session. It's going to be, I got this ideal. Let's figure out what works, what don't. Let's talk to the manufacturers. Let's talk to the people that are smart, and believe it or not, I mean, I've just answered a message earlier. I got a lot of chassis builders. Some of them are smaller, but Steve Arpin of Longhorn did make a comment that he wanted a part of it. I'm waiting on a call from Rocket Chassis. Hopefully I'll hear from them soon. So there is some big players involved. And I think it's good because them guys have been doing it for years and they're kind of the leader in safety. So, and that's where we're at today. So if you want to go ahead, Kate, I think I broke up a little bit there.
Yeah, you did break up a little bit, but so I'm going to follow up and let's talk about when this is going to be. So we're pulling this together, and the idea would be, I think there's just a lot going on, but one of the concepts would be to really get on the same page. I think the technology is all out there. All of the technology exists for our race cars to be safer today than they were, 5-10 years ago. The challenge is taking that the knowledge of the technology and making sure that the right players are aware of it. And
absolutely.
And I think, in talking to racers, it's not all just like trying to put a burden on chassis builders. A lot of this is just to make sure that the racers know. I mean, Jimmy, you're sitting there, you're a mechanical engineer. You grew up with, dad being a race car driver. But, not every racer has the same advantages that you had in order to be able to learn some of the basic things. Like, I know one thing that you and I have talked about is the challenge of mounting a seat.
Mounting a seat's a big deal. I'd say I'm going to get on my soapbox of what I've been yelling about for a really long time is the fact that the one thing that's going to change this whole industry is when somebody dies in a race car because they're going to get burned up because they can't get out the right side. So that's going to happen sometime, and we all see it coming. And these cockpits keep getting smaller and smaller. And I don't know if you notice how hard it is to get in these cars anyway. But it's not inconceivable that you're going to get into a wreck and you're going to be pinned in the left side, and then your car's going to be on fire. And I don't care how good of a fire suit you have; they're only going to be rated for, for 30 seconds or 45 seconds or a minute, and you have a fire bottle or whatever, but you've got something that keeps pumping fuel into a fire, or it's coming off the other car that's wrecked, that's on top of yours and all that stuff. And you can't get out and nobody can get you out because, those headrests and everything are so big and, that are blocking your way out. And I don't know why. I mean, I'm probably going to piss off all the seat manufacturers, but I don't know why we wouldn't have swing away headrests. I mean, all you got to do is have a pin in it with a hinge, and then you just you can knock. All it does is hold your head up. So it's like, you just pop the pin, or anybody can from the other side, and you can crawl out. So that would be like a requirement. Like if you're going to tech a car coming through, to begin with at the beginning of the season, or somebody has a new car and you go beyond the regular tech, you're going to examine the welds and how they mounted the seat and the seat belts, and do they have their weight clamps, or their weight mounted properly so it's not going to fall off on the racetrack and get kicked up and go through somebody's face, all that sort of stuff. So when you do that, then make them crawl out the right side. Say, hey, you have 20 seconds to get out the right side. Pop your belts and get out. If you can't, go work on your car. I mean, it's pretty easy, but my old Harley boss, who was a commercial airline pilot, I tell the story all the time, but he when he was training his pilots, he would tell everybody when they go in the cockpit, he'd say, look up and around you. He said, you see all these red switches everywhere? Because there's so many. There's like 200 red switches that are in a cockpit of like a Boeing 777 or whatever. And he says, somebody had to die to put that switch there. So you need to respect it. And you hate it in the fact a lot of that stuff is retroactive. Like you didn't think about it ahead of time. And so you make changes after the fact. But when you know something's going to happen, and it's going to happen, that you should make a change. You should do something about it before it's too late.
And Jimmy, that just kind of rolls into me. I mean, I've been around this stuff 30 years, been all over the country watching million races, and just something about that, because I knew the kid and I liked the kid. He's a great kid, 18, 19-year-old, his parents are great. It just done something to me. And I'm like, if not me, who? If I don't do something, who's going to do it? Nobody's done it. Now, can I change the world? No. But what if we save one life? What if somebody out there that watches this online or is sitting in that seat is like, I never thought of that, one of them oh shit moments, I call it. Oh shit, I didn't know that, and they fix something and it saved a life. So that told me, when I told that big long story to say that I knew I had the platform. Me and Kate talked about it. She's helped me for a long time. I knew we could video it. And I told Kate, I said, this is free. It's going to be free on my website. I don't want a dime. I do not want a dime. We're going to do it. We're going to video it, and we're going to put it on my Racelogic website, and for no cost. So there's no excuse if you couldn't make it. And I think you need to be there if you're a reputable safety person or a chassis builder or these tracks, these safety personnel. But if you can't, we're going to have it online to view. So that was my dream. That was my deal. And Kate's like, whatever you want to do, Brian, I'm there to help you. So here we are,
I think it's great. I think it can certainly cascade from there to where, a seminar like this, you actually do some training with tech people that are at racetracks or series. You teach them what to look for and how to determine whether or not something is safe or not, or to enforce rules, or ultimately be able to create a spec that can be called out in all the rule books. I mean, like right now, even in the performance side of things with rules, so much of this stuff is dictated by Lucas Oil, and so it trickles down to, like, say, the crate guys. We've been talking about this several times, on this podcast with the crate guys that come up, that they're adopting the Lucas Oil rules, aside from the engine, of course, but everything else, because it's the only thing that's out there. That's why you have to have a Lucas Oil caliber championship car to go run for 1,000 to win crate race right now. And I don't think anybody thinks that makes any sense. But right now, the rules are cascading down from the top like that with the safety type things. But it's one thing to have rules and have a spec. The other thing is being able to enforce it. So are there people out there capable of being able to do that on a series or a track level? And so that stuff has to be educated once it's decided upon what we can and can't do. And the simpler, the better.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. And, I think that's the thing with having everybody in one room is to this is the first step. I don't think we're going to go in 5, 6, 8 hours, however long it is, and we're going to fix all these problems. But like I said, I do know not doing anything hadn't worked. So let's do something, and let's get these people and these people that understand a lot better than me. I'm not the chassis, I'm not the safety guy, but I know a lot of people that do. So let's all talk about it. And, maybe somebody's welding pipe wrong. Maybe the tubing they're using is not, I don't know. I'm just throwing out things, maybe their fire suit, I hear this a lot. Seatbelts out of date. I mean, somebody needs to be looking for that. Why in the world ain't you looking at your seatbelts? But and I told Kate this, and I'm going to bring this up. This is something, Jimmy, I've been to 100 tracks and never seen this, but the track officials there actually got trained by whoever does the World Outlaws sprint cars safety. And like I said, the kid's dad was actually on the track and helped cut him out because his roll bar had his helmet, had his head bent forward. Anyway, they actually had saws off in their truck with a couple fresh batteries. I never thought of that. You don't think of it until somebody has a wreck and their cage is crushed and you can't get them out. So, I mean, that was a couple $100, I don't know what they cost, but every track should, at the bare minimum, if they don't have a fire safety crew, you need to have a couple of saws off or they got them now. I think the fire departments use them where they're electric and they actually cut almost like a Jaws alive. So, to me, that was something minor, but I guarantee you most of the tracks in America don't have something like that. And, you're sitting there maybe on fire, maybe can't get out, can't breathe, whatever. And you're running around the pits looking for saws off to get this kid out or the next kid or the next adult. So, I mean, that was something that I learned by just watching that, and that needs to be told. So that's things like we're going to tell in this class,
Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, it needs to happen because, I mean, that's certainly the racetracks are very, I mean, they're very ill equipped to handle anything that's more than just hooking it up with a tow truck, but especially fire and especially, emergency situations like having to get somebody out of a car if somebody's very injured or whatever. And and having to get them. I mean, think about a guy that's, 250 pounds in one of these full containment seats in one of these cars, and let's say they either had a heart attack or they got hit by something that was on the racetrack and knocked them out, or they're seriously injured. Like our dad had a rock the size of Halley's Comet hit him in the face and broke his helmet and all that sort of stuff. And he was out. I mean, how the hell do you get somebody like that out of the car in a reasonable amount of time? It's really, really hard to do. And people everybody's going to look around like, what do we do? Because we've never seen this situation before. So those types of things need to be addressed and need to be trained and thought of. And the racers honestly need to have a really good understanding of what racetracks and series are equipped to be able to handle those things in case, so that you race with the people that actually are equipped to be able to handle something like that.
Absolutely.
Good points. We've got some comments, so I thought I'd like to put them up on the screen here. I see Terry is watching from Princeton, West Virginia. Vivian is here from Mount Airy, North Carolina. And Josh Christopher, he says, maybe safety tech should become more of a priority. Yeah, not just safety, but the teching and having some type of, that's what we're looking at here. Is there something we can do to make sure that these cars are teched, from a safety standpoint? And on your point, Jimmy, Greg says, I've always wondered why they don't make breakaway headrests. Yeah. And we don't know. I mean, maybe there's some type of a testing reason that they don't.
It's not the most complicated. It's the headrest is there so that your head doesn't fall over. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not there for there's a lot of racers that used to race without headrests. It's not like something you have to have, although as fast as you're going in these cars, it's really hard to hold your head up. But it's not like you need, we used to have headrests that were like a piece of 090 aluminum that was bent and rolled around the side. And this thing was like the size of my earphone right there. Mm-hmm. Now these things are you could hook a tractor up to them and pull the car, lift the whole car up with as stiff as those headrests are. And I don't know how much testing's been in that, but sure seems like that something's got to move. But it's not like they have to be stationary. It's not like a structural member of the chassis or the car or anything like that. So
right. Any more questions, Kate?
Yeah. So Chris Jake is here. He says, conversations always get the ball rolling on safety items. Just like years ago, it took someone getting hurt badly before we finally saw carbon fiber drive shafts.
Yeah, I think the big one there was Jeremy Clements up at 311 when he had one of the 1.5-inch steel drive shafts and it broke and came through the car and it hurt him really bad. And then that got everybody's attention, because somebody had to get hurt really bad for it to be like, oh wow, instead of $200 for a drive shaft, I'm gonna spend $600, and it's not. And now we haven't had that issue anymore. It was a fixable issue. Getting out the right side of these cars is a fixable issue.
Right?
You know what I mean? It's It's not the most. This isn't rocket science here, So
Well, real quick, Kate. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Tori's on.
Hey, Tori.
Tori says, "Hey y'all, thank you for all you do in safety, Brian." So
Thank you, Miss Tori. Appreciate that.
Yep.
It's just like Dallin. Like I said, you guys out there don't know, but he's a very well respected racer, one of the upcoming guys, and he thank God he lived, and he lived to tell about it. Now he's racing again, and I'm telling you, if you'd have been there, you would have thought maybe he'd have never raced again. I seen it. I mean, it was bad, but my thought was, before somebody did die, what if we could fix a few things? Not only maybe in his wreck, because he did walk away. I mean, it's hard to. I mean, I'm sure there's things could have been better. I don't know, but maybe somebody else's car is not that safe, or don't have the proper belts, or the proper the way the fuel cell's mounted, or fire bottles and all these things. So that was my cue to say, I can do this, and we can put something together. And it's just worked in perfect with you guys' trade show, the cars show that weekend, because a lot of these players are already there. I mean, Randall LaJoy, Cash Wilson talked to him. Cash actually bought Dallin a brand new seat for him, and bought one through Randall LaJoy, and Randall LaJoy said, yeah, it makes sense. I'm going to be there. I'll come in. We'll talk seats. So I just use that as an example. So, a lot of these people that we need in the room is going to be there anyway in your trade show that Friday and Saturday. So it just all made sense. And we already video classes, so that's easy stuff for Kate to do. I'm saying that. I'm not the one doing it, so I'm saying it's easy. But it's really not easy. But I mean, we know how to do it. We've done it 3 or 4 years. So, we can do all that and put it out there. And like I said, not only reach, I'm hoping we can. Kate, how many you think we could put in that room if we just didn't do tables, we just done chairs? I mean, what's your thought in the back of your head?
Jimmy Catawba, how many people can we get in that room?
700 classroom style seating.
Okay,
maybe more, 900. We can get a lot. Well,
we're gonna get all we can get in there. So me and Kate will talk in a minute. And then if you can't be there, and I get it, there's guys across the country, California or wherever, whatever, they can't be there. Kate, am I saying it right? Are we going to try to make it live? Is that correct?
I mean, we can try to live stream. We've got some pretty decent. The reason we don't do it with Racelogic is because I've got multiple cameras and we don't always have the best internet connections. We can try to live stream and live stream it over to your YouTube channel. But if we fail at that, I'll still be recording it, and then we'll get the multiple camera angles, and we'll be able to put it up on YouTube. So we'll try. We'll try. I don't want to make any hardcore guarantees, but we're going to give it a try, because that way we can get questions.
I think ultimately you're just trying to educate people so that the racers one want to be safe, but they also don't want to get beat by something that's unsafe. Like, I mean, the shit that I have seen in my life and I remember seeing a car at Atomic in Tennessee one time, really fast. What was Atomic? 3rd mile or whatever. I mean, fastest 3rd mile in the world or whatever. This car, no lie, was 1.25" roll bars, cage, 049, 1.5" by 1.5" square frame rails. But even modern, I have seen. There's a lot of cars out there that are Molly 065, the whole thing, and then and you're an 1.3" roll bars. I mean, you're talking. I mean, especially if it's Molly, that's it's strong enough to be rigid enough to be, to be a fast race car. But can something like that take an impact like that? Probably not. Those are kind of some of the minimums that you're going to have to address so that you can, set a standard that everybody's going to feel good about and be like, okay, now we're going to, and I think some of the top people, they're very safety conscious, and they have, they build really good cars, but it's not like you're telling everybody to go buy one chassis manufacturer either, especially when you get into modifieds. There's lots of modified builders. Late models now, you only have a handful. So, but in the modifieds, there's a ton of them. So they can be made a lot of, and street stocks are probably just as many. So
they are the same.
So all that needs to be, talked about. That stuff can come from the top down too.
Yeah, so. Exactly right.
Yep,
Go ahead,
got some more
Kate.
comments here. I want to jump into that. So Greg says, watched a good friend cut out of a car in front of me, changed my whole perspective on racing. I went out the next day and bought a head and neck restraint.
Good for
Yeah,
you.
Good for him.
yeah.
Yep.
And then
All of
our
us.
friend Vaughn is here from Oregon. He says, we are very thankful for this being discussed now before something worse happens. And,
Absolutely.
and this actually makes me wonder. I mean, I think there's a stat that a number of racers die on a yearly basis. I mean, every year we have racers die. I just think that it hasn't been anybody in my particular circle that it's happened that I've been super close to. So, yeah,
Well,
I mean,
that's because they haven't been. Let me get my quotes in the thing. Important enough. Let's look at NASCAR. Like there were some NASCAR drivers that died. I mean, I can't even remember their names. The guy that died in ARCA, and I remember Neil Bonnet died and all this stuff. But when Earnhardt died,
Then
shit changed, right?
the Holy Grail.
So like the whole thing, like where the seats and seat belts and helmets and restraints and the whole bit, all that changed like overnight, and it was all preventable. I mean, it wasn't like they didn't have to invent any technology; they just had to make people do it. So that's the same thing here. We hate to see one of our headliners get hurt really bad, and then all of a sudden, there were 10 other like guys at a weekly Saturday night racetrack that had the same thing happen to them, but it just got looked over. But just because we had a headliner that it happened to, that now we're concerned about it. So let's raise these issues now.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and a couple more here too. Mikey says, "Thank you for putting this together. Got my support 150%." So that's awesome. And John's here. He says 99% of the guys ain't gonna get out of the right side if they're upside down. I'd like to see a way to flip cars back over faster and safely, like a pillow. Yeah, like a pillow. That's interesting.
Yeah, but it's not always if you're upside down. Upside down is an issue, but what if you get turned around and your left side is pinned up against the wall and you can't get out? And I'm saying the left side, and somebody, and you're still upright, but you just are pinned there. You can't physically get out because there's a wall right there. What are you going to do? You can't go up, you can't go backwards or forwards, because of the seat and the windshield bars and all that, and the way the cockpits are, all the stuff's around you. So what are you gonna? You're just gonna sit there, wait for you to,
Yeah,
terrible
that's
way
all
to go.
Good points, Jimmy. Got something else, Kate?
Yeah, I see. I wasn't Dale Earnhardt. It changed the world. It was Blaze Alexander who died a couple of months after Dale.
Okay.
So then we do have a lot of racers that die, but if there's something that we can do, again, I think that just so many of these times the technology is there. I mean, Brian, tell the story you were telling me about the guy that lives near you who does some work.
Yeah. There's a kid that lives by you talking about as far as some of the stuff he's looked at doing.
Yeah. Or the seat situation.
Oh yeah. I mean, this was a good friend of mine who's lives close to me, builds 3 or 4 beautiful cars a year, stock cars. And he told me he was driving for another guy, and long story short, and he said they were mounting the seat in it, and he had some guy over there helping him, and he watched him put the seat in it, and he didn't say anything. But when the kid left, he told the car owner, he's like, "Man, I can't drive this car like this." He said, "What do you mean?" He said, "It don't have the right bolts in the seat." He put, and I don't know, Jimmy may know, he put 3/8 that I had, whatever it was, he put the wrong ones in the seat. But he noticed that, and the kid was sharp enough to know they ain't the right bolts in the seat. I think it was seat belts. Let me rephrase that: seat belts. He's putting the belts in and put the wrong bolts in there for what the standard is. Well, that kid just there to help. He didn't know any better. He just went and grabbed some bolts out of the bolt bin and put them in there. So, I mean,
he probably put like grade 5 bolts in instead of grade 8 bolts. And like, if you're trained and know what that's actually stamped in the head of a bolt, that you can look at a bolt and see like what. And I'd have to look them up, but I think the grade 5s have a triangle and the 8s have the little notches around there. But you'll know what they are. But it's basically the hardness of them, like. And then there's the lower ones, like you buy at Tractor Supply, you can get the silver ones or whatever, and they'll shear right off because they're not strong at all. So it's all in tensile strength, of the bolts. But but all that stuff
Jimmy, you're
needs to be.
breaking
And
up
then
for some
what
reason.
nuts
I
do
don't
you
know why.
use? A lot of people I've seen people put stuff on with like lock washers and regular nuts, or even just regular nuts with no washers. They'll vibrate out. Nylock nuts are about the same. I mean, they're not much better, but you really need to use like a swedge nut or something like that. But
yeah. So it's just small things that this kid was aware enough. But I promise you, there's probably people out there that's going to watch what we're doing and thought, I'm gonna go back and check my belts now. So what if he didn't have the right bolts in there and he had a wreck? You're always gonna say it ain't gonna happen to you. Well, it could happen to you. So if we can prevent some of this, that's why I started all this, and I feel like we can. I feel like we can. There's not me, but I think I can get enough people in place that are there for the right reason. They're not there to sell you a new fuel cell or whatever it is. They're going to be there for the right reason to help bring some of this awareness, and some of it may be basic to a lot of guys like Jimmy, but it ain't basic to everybody, I guess. Sometimes we got to realize that there's some Saturday night guys out there that just do their own stuff, and they think they're doing the right thing. Nobody wants to be unsafe, but you don't know what you don't know. So if we can help them know, then maybe we can save one life.
And be careful that we don't over-engineer it either. I wonder a little bit if we're not some of that stuff with the seats right now, because the seats are so robust now. And don't you have to get them like SFI rated or something? It's not SFI, it's something else. What's the other rating with a seat that you have to pay for to get something done? But these things are tanks, and so maybe they need to be that way. I don't know, but like what we don't want to do is say, next thing we do is like we're somebody's spending X amount of dollars on something, and now all of a sudden it's safer, so it's 10 times the cost or 5 times the cost. It still has to be reasonable.
Absolutely. Kate, you got something for us?
I do. Well, I want to say hey to Jeremiah Reed because he noticed my shirt. He says, "Hi, Kate, go Hawks," because I'm wearing my Iowa Hawkeyes.
Yeah, that's because he's on that everybody and their brother's dog is on the Caitlin Clark bandwagon. So.
Oh no, Jeremiah lives in Iowa.
That's awesome. Yeah. Hey, I'm a big Iowa fan, obviously. So.
Oh yeah, and you have
because of me. So.
And I got this last fall before I even heard of Caitlin Clark. So I got this when her dad went into the Iowa Racing Hall of Fame.
That's right.
Then more comments here. So Talon says why I use the wraparound bar. Why use the wraparound the bar style? I'm assuming that's the for the seat belts would be
probably the shoulder belts. I would imagine.
Okay. And Shane says, I know this won't make a lot of people happy, but go back to the slanted cockpit to the right to make it easier to get out the right side. I
mean, that's an option. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, now in a late model, you have the torque arm in the way or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, and then Sean is following up. He had mentioned about Blaze Alexander. He says it was Blaze's dad who really pushed the Hans. It was the same vascular skull fracture they got Dale. Got his son too. So that was about.
Wait, I said this. I don't know this, and Dallin, maybe he'll jump on with you here in the next few weeks or months or whatever. But I really think that head and neck restraint he had on, and I think it was a Zamp. I think it's when I look back, I think it may have saved his life because his neck was pinned, his chin was touching here, and he couldn't hardly breathe because the roll cage had his helmet bent forward. So I think that head and neck restraint may have been what saved him. I mean, I'm not a doctor or engineer, but I'm not an idiot either. I think that might have been what saved his from breaking his neck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I'm glad that Dallin was able to walk away, and that we do have the opportunity here to do something really great. I have put something into the chat. I can do it again too. I will do it again. But if you are interested, whoever is listening or watching, I'll make sure that the link is there. But on our sign up, and this is not, again, we're not charging for this, But to get on our list, then go ahead and fill out this form. I just put in here, it says sign up, and it's got a link. Fill out the form, and then this way it will let us know. It's just asking for your name, your email address, probably your address and phone number, in case we wanted to, all of the ways of contacting you. I mean, we would mostly use email to be able to say, hey, hey, this is, to keep you informed what's going on. So all of that. So feel free, if you think you would like to make it to the safety summit. The plan now is to do this the day before the Cars Racing Show is going to be January 10th and 11th of 2025. So the safety summit will be January 9th. That'll be a Thursday. So if you're all interested in attending, then feel free to fill out that sign up form. And then I see we got a couple of more comments here. Then Greg says, I measured the driver's windows on 3 different stock cars. They're about 3 to 6 inches difference. Most are way too small. I kind of think they need regulation sizes for the windows.
Yeah, I've heard some of that through some messages I've got. And that's things we need to talk about, because there's going to be some reputable chassis, even the stock car chassis, where builders in there. Actually, Dallon's chassis builder is going to be in the room. He said he was. So Kyle, I think we'll have enough talk back and forth. Unfortunately, Jimmy and Kate, I do not have one sanctioning body on board right now. And that really disappoints me. I don't know if they're, worried that they're going to find some things wrong. I don't know, but they need to be on board. I mean, this ain't a crucifying them, but golly, when you want to go there and maybe learn something that you could help your racer, let's go look, let's get together. I mean, it doesn't hurt anything, and I know I read one of them's big long post after Downs wreck, and he went on, more or less pointed the finger at the racer. Well, you know what? Pointing the finger still ain't fixed anything. Look, we got to do something, so hopefully some of these series sanctionings will get on board, and let's get in the room, because they're the ones that control a lot of the rules. They're the one who writes a lot of the rules. And a lot of them say, well, we got rules in place. Well, I get that, but somebody needs to enforce them. If you got the right rules, maybe there's rules you don't have that you could learn, that wouldn't cost a racer. I know they're worried about losing racers and the cost of racing, but maybe you don't need to buy that new wrap this year. Maybe you need to go buy you a new helmet, something like that.
Oh, no.
And
you need
Jimmy,
to buy
I wasn't no dig at you. Do I know? Yeah, I do.
Right. Right.
But and
That's
Jimmy would honestly
I
God
get
agree with me on that. I mean,
I would.
I hear
That's
that
right.
all the time, and Jimmy, I hope you sell 10 million wraps this year. But that one guy that don't need a new wrap, that needs a new helmet, I hope he go gets a new helmet, then comes later and buys a new wrap from you. But really, it's things like that I think we all overlook, because like I said, you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't know the answer, you don't know to fix it.
That's right.
Yeah. And Shane says you can still get around the 5th arm or pull bar to help get out. I don't know how you would get out.
Yeah, because it's harder in a late model, but as you can still you still can give yourself a whole lot of room, but it's not as cool, because it sure is cool to be all snugged and tight in there. You feel like you're in an airplane cockpit and all that stuff, like everything's fitted to you, but like it, there's a cost to that. So
it's all fun and games until you're trapped.
That's right. Then you wish you didn't. But
yeah, I'm actually surprised. I mean, because you hear about some of these racers that are claustrophobic, and yet, it's kind of surprising that they're all kind of stuck inside of a race car, for sure. Yeah. So that's all my comment.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wow. And that's just if you can even just get out of a race car. I've heard of people that get in their car at the beginning of the night because it's so hard to get in, and then they stay in there till the end of the night, just because it's like you know what I'm saying. You know how it's like you have a pair of boots or something that's really hard to like tie the lace up. You're like, I'm just gonna walk around with my boots on. I'm not gonna take them off, because that's too hard to get them on and off. So I'm just gonna leave them on. Those are like guys just stay in the car. Everybody else works on it. How cool is that?
What do they do? I mean, do they go like astronaut and go full astronaut and be like wearing a diaper or something?
No, I mean, this can make it, but I mean, they got people around that can give them a cold drink or whatever. I'm not going to call out the people that I know that have done that, but I mean, I've seen it happen. So. And anyways.
Yeah.
I mean.
And and Shane says, yeah, cool. Ain't always safe. Yeah.
No, it's not. No, it's not. But like, it's kind of like when you like like when you're freezing your ass off, right? It's like when you're cold, you don't care what you look like in order to warm up. It's the same thing. If something happens to you, like like it was so funny. Wasn't funny, but I don't know if you remember Charlotte. Oh, gosh, when was that? 10 years ago or more? That was when everybody was experimenting with the whole stuff you put in the water to keep the dust down and all stuff. And Charlotte's got its issues anyway because the RV park and everything. Well, then I think something happened and it made the dirt like a whole lot harder than it needed to be. So then there was a couple drivers that got hit in the face, and one got hurt really bad, and there was some that kept getting hit with these big clods. They were like basically rocks, like bricks. And so then the people that wanted to still race, had to and they were going through their little tiny windshield bars that were all cute and powder coated and all that stuff. But then you saw at the end of the weekend, people had the old timey chicken wire screen and the grates from the bathroom, bolted on there and everything else. It's like, hey, I don't want to get hit by that stuff. So it's like, I don't care what it looks like. So, like that person said, cool ain't always safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've just had so much activity around this, Brian, in such a short period of time. What are some of the other updates? It's been a whirlwind.
Well, yeah, honestly, I got to step back and think because I get so many, but like I said, a lot of good chassis builders, a lot of them you guys wouldn't know, but they're definitely coming. Randy LaJoy is a big one, Longhorn. Hope to hear something from Rocket. I realize just them guys of technology, I think, that's who a lot of people look up to, like Jimmy said earlier. Definitely have them. I'm working with a fuel cell company. I did reach out to I actually did reach out to Fire Bottle, and I knew you would tell me they would do this. I know you've done a lot of stuff to help, but they're pretty short-handed, only got 2 or 3 people. They love the idea and willing to help. So I think Kate's she don't know it yet, but I'm going to have her fill in on some of that. But I actually reached out to a company out in Kansas that does a lot of your, it's called Ice Cold Freeze. Maybe I'm saying that wrong, but they do a lot of stuff that the track workers have at NASCAR and all of what they're spraying, like a foam spray or whatever it is. I haven't heard back from him yet, but I'd like to get somebody like that in there to actually talk about the actual what they're using to put out a certain fire, because hell, I don't know, and I mean, everybody thinks a fire extinguisher bottle will put everything out. Well, maybe it will, I don't know, but maybe it won't either. So just some kind of people who are working right now, just a lot of excitement right now, a lot of people willing to be there and participate, and we're going to keep looking for of course, Brad Veloci is going to be there, and he's a great speaker, knows his stuff. So he's definitely one. And trying to think who else. I had a big list. And you can look on my site. It's not the best in the world, but on the Racelogic page, every time somebody commits, I put their name in there. So just keep updated. I know Stock Car Steel, we talked a little off air, working on something with them that could be really big, depending on how this all goes on tubing and welds. And me and Kate talked a little bit. We won't let the cat out, but hopefully we can get with Pit U on some welding stuff and see if we can bring some of that in there. Kate, if you want to mention that, you can. If not, since we hadn't really reached out to them yet.
Yeah, or Jimmy.
I'm sure they will. I mean, to educate, this is where the chassis builders can, as a workshop or a clinic, can really benefit, is that they learn from the professionals here, that with the tubing and the welders on the proper ways to weld to, especially if you're into like the high carbon content steels that so that you don't embrittle the tubing at the welds. What you see a lot, like in the pictures I think I saw there or whatever, where the tubing breaks right beside the weld. I mean, that's because it was wire welded with the and it embrittled it, so it's like it turns it into glass. So so those types that you can wire weld, Molly, it's not legal like an NHRA or anything like that, but you can. And there's there's ways to do that, but it's very delicate stuff. So, but it's the tubing that everybody's going to want to use in this because of its engineering terms, it's like there's a modulus of elasticity. It's like, you know, when you get into like electro seam, like a softer steel, like that wouldn't have broke like that, like soft, like what you see where it breaks out. It's not going to do that because it's that tubing like that is going to crush first. It's not going to break. But the problem with that is it's going to be like a spring that's like one of the cheap springs you get like in a pen or something like that, or a paper clip. You know, you can only bend it so far, and then it's not going to come back. You know, that's so. You know, Molly or like Docol are much, you know, have a much higher modulus, so they'll be able to, you know, have a lot what memory. We get to, that's a word that throws around. They have a lot greater memory, so your chassis is going to last longer. It's not going to wear out. It's not going to flex out. Is what people say. But you have to weld it right. You know, the more carbon content they are, the harder they are to weld. So, as far as the safety wise,
good stuff.
Anyways, but I'm no expert. I'm just saying we could easily get those people involved. Yeah.
Well, a question I would have too, Brian told me later on that the car that Dallin was in this particular case was his first car. So it was a car he had when he was 11 years old. And now I'm guessing the Dallin is either 18 or 19, right, Brian? Because he just graduated from high school last year. So either way, we're looking at a car that was probably like 7 or 8 years old. Now, how much does the age of the chassis or the number of races, you know, like there's just a lot of things. I mean, if I have a pair of shoes that is 10 years old versus a pair of shoes that I bought last week and they're leather, that material is going to be different just based on age.
It's the same as a paperclip. Bend your paperclip back and forth, and eventually it's going to break, right? So everybody that's had a chassis, you know, that's for any length of time has seen them crack. I mean, chassis aren't rigid structures. You know, they flex and they bend and move around, and so when you put a stress on them, where there's a lot of stress. I mean, the engine's putting stress on it. Obviously, all the suspension, and then you hit, you know, the racetrack, you know, gives you puts a lot of stress on them, you know, through the suspension. And so these things are constantly torquing around that these things are cracked. So you can weld them back up. But you can only weld them so many times. You know, it's kind of like, you know, putting super glue on a crack, you know, and it's eventually it's just going to break, and that your tubing isn't strong enough. You're just going to have a weld there with no tubing, if that makes any sense. Like, it's just going to break. And it's not going to have any strength at that point. So it's fatigued out. It's fatigued.
Okay. And you know, here's a totally different perspective, and totally agree. Darren says sobriety checks needs to happen as well.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. I mean, do we think that's pretty prevalent? I mean, do we have, you know?
I'm sure it's like everything possibly, but that may be stretching things a little bit, you know.
Can I tell you a story that's absolutely
true?
Do. All right. So this is at a tour race, a crate tour race. At a prominent racetrack, and this driver goes and runs into the tech shed with his car, runs into the tech shed, and he's yelling frantically, says he can't see. Something happened to his eyes. He can't see. You know why? Because he had his helmet on backwards.
Oh, yeah, that would probably do it.
But he was just out on the racetrack and ran a heat race. And so, okay, now of course he wasn't fast, but like, hey, if you're ever leading a race, you ever try to like pass? You ever try to lap somebody like that? I mean, have we ever seen a lap car take a leader out or something like that? It's really it's way easier to pass a guy who's fast that you know where he's going than somebody that you have no idea. If you've ever followed a junk driver on the racetrack and you don't know where they're going, and you're like, what? How am I going to pass this guy without getting my shit tore up? True. I mean, I'm telling you, like, it's happened. It happens more than you think.
Wow. Well, you know, Kate, I think to kind of wrap it up, you know, I think the biggest takeaway here is we need more people involved. And I know a lot of people watch this channel. We still need to get some more players in the game, and you know, whether it's whoever it is in safety, because here's the deal. I'm not married to any one fuel cell company or the next guy or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. If you're there for the right reason, I want you to be there. There's no reason you couldn't have two of whatever it is. Maybe they could bounce ideas off each other, or
Yeah.
four. Yeah,
We
yeah.
got four of them. We got 4 seat manufacturers and 4 fuel cell companies
Absolutely.
and 4, or however many, but just it doesn't have to be just 1 or 2.
Sure.
We've got a really nice big tent here, and what we're looking for is more the specs than anything else. Is getting the right specs into place and having those discussions and getting the information out there in whatever way we possibly can.
I think overall, though, I think that you need to have like a panel, because you have to be real careful that you don't have the fox guard and the hen house kind of situation. So, like, you have a panel of like respected people, especially if you really look at some of the retired people, the older people that have been around the sport for a long time. People have a tendency to kind of like when you're 20 years old or 18 years old, you're kind of invincible, right? You don't think about safety. But when you're 60 years old, you probably think a lot more about it then than you did earlier. Good. So I would say bring some of the retired guys in that don't have any skin in the game, because that's probably they would love to contribute back to the sport that they love, and that would be a way to because they've probably seen a lot of bad stuff happen, and probably lost friends or whatever, and like they can impart a lot of wisdom as a panel and be able to like say, hey, you fuel cell guys over there, that I know y'all are like thinking about how you can do this and make money. I get it. I mean, that's right, but like somebody needs to kind of keep everybody honest. And so I think that's where an elected panel or something like that, maybe, I'm just throwing stuff out, but like like an appointed or something like that with some smart people.
Yeah, I've got a couple people in mind that me and Kate know personally that I know can keep things headed in the right direction. But I agree with you. I done thought about that. We need kind of a panel of, and then let other people, this is our first one, so we're going to learn from it. But like I said, this is not going to be a sales pitch. It's not going to be a debate. We're going to try to do it for the right reason. And I'll stop the meeting and tell somebody to leave if I have to, if it becomes my fire suit's better than yours or my safety, whatever is better than yours. That's not about it. Let's talk about, different products. So I think we got everything in place, Kate, and really looking forward to it. And, having online access for free is huge to the world. I mean, we can reach thousands of people. So we're going to try to do it the right way. And, everybody knows they can reach me at 479-461-7561 or bklittleton@gmail.com if you're interested. And like Kate said, go on and sign up. If you're going to be there, it's free of charge. It don't cost you anything. Don't cost you nothing to sign up. We're not sending you, we're not sending all your information to these scammers. So get on there and sign up. And any questions, reach out to me, because and we got a lot more people coming. I mean, there's going to be a lot more to this. We'll probably get together again maybe in a few months as more people hear about it, and we'll kind of go over the whole list of who is going to be there.
And I'd say just sign up anyway, even if you don't have plans to go, you're still, if you sign up, you're going to be in the know of like whatever updates, or you can obviously send us your input and all feedback. But if we do stream it live or with some sort of delay, that you'll be notified of that. So definitely, like, all you're doing is tell us that you're interested.
Sure.
Well, and and there could be a document at some point, where we talk about what grade of bolts you want to mount your seat with and things like that. So it just gets you, and like I forget who said it, but we don't sell your information. So the only you'll see stuff from the Safety Summit, and it'll also come from the Cars Racing Show. So you will see stuff on that, but that's about it. And I got a couple more comments here. Jeremiah says, squirrels are hard to pass. So it sounds like he's been there too. And let's see. And Talon says functionality of the car should be checked as well. Brakes, for example, got junked by a guy that went out on the track and knowing his brakes didn't work and used me to slow down. Ooh, that's fun. That's fun. Yeah. And then
I'd say some of that stuff. Now this is the rule that I like when people have asked me over the years. This isn't like so much of a safety thing, but like the when it comes to short track racing, people have asked what should be the minimum age for somebody to get into a race car, street stock or a modified or or a late model, you know what my response is the fact that the minimum age is whatever is going to be okay for you to get your ass whipped. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because the last thing that we want to see is if you're 12 years old and you get in there and then you go out there and you junk somebody because you don't know what you're doing or because you don't care about your stuff because grandpa is paying all the bills, then I don't want to race with you. But if you're 24 years old and you're going to go up there and you're going to stand behind, a crew or whatever like that because you're not going to stand up for yourself, but you're going to go do the same thing. But like a lot of that stuff, like what you're talking about, gets taken care of by people that you race with that don't put up with stuff like that. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yes.
Good stuff.
And then, and here's one more, like just all these things that, people are aware of.
Good point right here. That's a great point. Yeah.
It says, what about condensation in the bars of the older cars rusting from the inside out?
Yep. Freezing and busting in the winter if you leave it outside, if you get water in the tubes.
Yeah, you ever like have to fix a car and then you cut a bar and you're like, holy crap, I didn't know there was like 5 gallons of water in this thing. How's it get in there? So
good stuff for sure.
Definitely. Yeah. Great point.
Really, really incredible. So gosh, thank you. I mean, any other final words there, Brian?
I think I've said it without getting real dramatic. I did kind of have a dramatic when I started this, but it meant something to me. And I want to do this for the right reason. Like I said, I got my chassis schools. We're going to do them this year like we always do. But this is nothing about that side of it necessarily. We just need to bring some awareness. And like I said, if we just save one life or if we just get some people out there to listen to what works and what don't, then it's more than anybody else has done. Not doing anything doesn't fix nothing. So I think it'll be great. You guys' car show is awesome. They want to come in early. Mooresville, NASCAR is right there. I know y'all seen it your whole life or since you lived there, so you really don't mean as much. But people want to fly in early. They'll be able to visit all that, and then the car show is Friday and Saturday. And stay around and look at all the great vendors and stuff there. So you can make a really cool weekend out of it and learn a lot. So I think it'll be a great time. And questions, comments, people that we need to have here, talk to your chassis builder and your track officials, and let's get all them there and have them contact me, and we'll get this going. And I'll keep a list out going forward. All right, that's all I have.
That sounds great. Good way to wrap it up. And you can get more information. We'll continue to post information on this on the Cars website, so carsracingshow.com. And you can reach out to any of us, and we'll be able to really inform you as well. Brian, go ahead and stay on for a couple minutes, and we're gonna wrap things up. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for being here, and we look forward to seeing you in another episode. Have a good one.